Sisters of St. Martha were formally established as a religious organization in 1900 after responding to a call from the Bishop of Antigonish. Within a few years of the founding, the Sisters responded to the call to help in hospitals in Western Canada as well as teaching in rural schools. Bishop Kidd was in Calgary and knew that the Lethbridge Hospital needed help, and so two sisters came to Lethbridge. That was the beginning of a long period of service to the Lethbridge community.
Volunteer Lethbridge's community it's seeking out people who make a difference in our community. They're caring individuals, they serve the community in so many different ways, and today we are recognizing 3 of those individuals who are sisters from St. Martha Centre, and I'd like to introduce them to you. We have Josephine here, we have Sister Teresa, Sister Josephine, and Sister Jo, and I'm so pleased to be here with you because these doors of St. Martha Centre are closing. Is that correct?
Not totally. We are leaving, but Martha Retreat Centre will stay open.
And where are you leaving to?
We're going back to Nova Scotia, Antigonish, Nova Scotia, where our headquarters are, our mother house, and because we're getting a little elderly to be carrying on the retreat center here, and a group of lay people will continue on with the spirit of the Marthas.
When you first came here, I was delighting in your stories of when you entered into the order, and Sister Teresa, tell us about how you started your journey.
Well, I felt that I was called to something and I didn't know what, but I knew sisters who taught me in grade 11 and 12, but I thought it was, religious life I was called to. And I didn't feel the call, and the same with what we called normal college when I stayed with some sisters. But it was through my pastor when I was teaching in my village where I come from, who mentioned the Marthas to me. And so it was the simplicity with which he told me about them. Do I tell them about the pots and pans?
Absolutely.
But anyway, he had told me when I said I didn't know them, and he said, well, the sisters are in Inverness, and every July 1st we had our picnic, and he said, did you ever think of where we get our pots and pans? And I said, no. He said, the Marthas give us the pots and pans for this picnic. And I was so impressed with their simplicity. I thought, they're the ones for me.
So it was an act of giving that led you. Sister Jo, you've got a story of entering into this new passage in life for yourself.
Well, it's interesting. It's a little bit the same in the sense it was through my pastor. I had no plans to enter at all. And one day he just simply said to me, I just took Mike, who was a friend of mine, to the seminary. I think you should join the sisters. I said, I'm not really interested, and I hadn't been thinking about it. So, end of story. He said, oh, okay. And he just continued on his way. Anyway, I think that kind of stirred the spirit probably in me, and for the whole year it was always kind of, I guess in a sense, nattering at me until I finally, I'd say a good year later, decided I need to pursue this.
How old were you at the time?
19, just turned 19.
Is that the given age that you have to be 18 or 19?
No, not necessarily. A lot of sisters were younger than that. I think we had one that was 15, but 16, 17, I think, at the time for most of them. Yes, and then we had some older ones too.
So when it was 1929 that you and I were speaking about this, Sister Josephine, and we're talking about 1929 was when the first sisters arrived here in Lethbridge. To what?
I'll backtrack a bit in that our sisters were working at St. Augustine's Seminary in Scarborough, Ontario from 1913. So eventually, many of the students who went through there were stationed all across Canada, and Bishop Kidd was bishop in Calgary at the time, and he knew our sisters, and he knew that there was a need for health care in Lethbridge. And there was a small hospital here in Lethbridge called the Van Haarlem, and they needed some help, and so Bishop Kidd asked our sisters if they could come to Lethbridge, and 2 sisters did come to the Van Haarlem, and then the bishop asked them to expand the hospital because the health needs were growing. And so our sisters from back east supported the sisters here with personnel and finances, and they built St. Michael's Hospital, which opened in 1931.
And wasn't that a big step forward, you know, as we look back on that? 1931. Now, medicine has changed a great deal through the years. Nursing has changed a great deal. What do you recall about that particular era?
Well, it was just before the Depression, and the members of the board were businessmen from the city, and none of them had any idea that this depression was coming. And Mother Stanislaus, who was here during that time, used to say the only thing to do was to go, like the Israelites of old, down to Old Man River and weep because of the, you know, the terrible
circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The hospital played such a crucial role, but you know, behind the scenes, there were people that were working to raise money, to certainly serve, as you certainly know well. And I think of the just the enormous task that would be to build that hospital and then build wings onto that hospital as well. Do you want to comment on that?
When you started, I was thinking of at the time when they were really in dire straits, and how the sisters had told one man to go out and see if you can collect money from those that were owing. And when he came back at the end of the day, he said, "Sister," he said, "no one could pay, but my car is full of produce and chickens." Yeah, and yeah, they seemed to. That's how they paid the bills, how they were able to manage, and